A very warm welcome. Swagat aapka Radio Masti 24/7. Absolutely live from the studios. This is Renuka. Yes, absolutely. And this is Corner Office. You must be wondering, Renuka, the last time you came in Corner Office, you told us, नहीं और मैं किसी को नहीं लेकर आ रही हूँ बट ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है You guys tell me. Corner Office is actually a location which never gets boring. It's exciting. There is a vision attached to it. There are challenges attached to it. There are very interesting people attached to it. And definitely the businesses and the entrepreneurs and the corporate life. And there's so much more to it, right? Well, how can I ever say that Corner Office is not going to continue on Radio Masti? After all, the conversation between the bosses is always the most interesting and the one that everybody's interested in, right? तो आज के दिन में भी हमारे साथ बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग कोई होने वाले हैं यहाँ पर कॉर्नर ऑफिस के ये स्पेशल एपिसोड में Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a little bit. लेकिन पहले मैं आपको ये बताना चाहती हूँ कि ये जो पेंडेमिक है इसने बहुत ज्यादा शोर मचाया हुआ है You know that for the past many months now, COVID-19 is a topic which has been just around everyone's mind, and everyone is a little shaken up because of that, because no one knows. It's an unprecedented situation. No one really knows what is going to happen to their businesses, to their industries, to their organizations, to their jobs, to a lot more. But there's one thing which is common to all of us, and that is education. Whether it comes to us being attached to education as an entrepreneur or being attached to education because of our children, you know it is time to rethink the sector. Technology definitely has stepped in, but more than that, educating the future generation, that is where the challenge is. And definitely in a world where everything is just a mouse click away, the role of the educator must also change. है ना? इसी बात के साथ में आई थिंक व्हाट्स टोटली इंपॉर्टेंट इज दैट सिंस वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 कहा जाता है कि कभी भी ऐसी कोई सिचुएशन नहीं हुई दैट ऑल द कंट्रीज अराउंड द वर्ल्ड हैव नेवर सीन सो मेनी स्कूल्स एंड एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस गो इनटू लॉकडाउन टुगेदर एट द सेम टाइम सो डेफिनेटली what is going to happen to education as a sector? That is the question of today. And to answer that, there is none other than a very amazing person who's going to join me in just a little bit. Well, before I tell you his name, I got to tell you that there are so many credentials that are attached to him. He's an educationist. He's a philanthropist. He's an entrepreneur. He's a technology enthusiast. He is the president of SP Jain School of Global Management, which is one of Asia Pacific's top-rated global business schools. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to welcome Mr. Nitish Jain right here to the Corner Office. A very good evening, sir. How are you doing? It's such a pleasure.
I am doing very well, Renuka. And thanks for those glowing compliments and for the introduction. I think we should stop this meeting right here and now so that we don't spoil it further.
I love that. And I would love to give you a stadium welcome, which is the least that we can do for a person of your stature. Tell me something, Mr. Jain. So many things, so many aspects of your personality that I've just highlighted. Where do you get the time to do all this all together? कहाँ से मिलता है इतना टाइम?
You know, if you love what you do, you find the time to do it. And I simply love my job. And I think educating people is such an immeasurable sort of feeling that you get. So I love it, you know. I don't find it stressful at all.
I'm not surprised with that answer at all. You know what? The amazing bit about being in the industry that you are is that you are creating the future. You're creating, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes to anyone from this industry, for that matter, especially for the kind of work that you are doing. So tell me, what was the motivation behind finding SP Jain School of Global Management? And then, of course, what keeps you going?
Renuka, the school was founded in 2004. And in 2004, businesses were going global.
Yeah.
Even a garage in Bangalore or in some other part of the world became a global company.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas business was global, business schools were local. And that was the problem. So the talent coming out of business schools was very local or not prepared to accept a global world. And so we decided that we will set up 4 campuses and get students to actually rotate to all these campuses and thereby understand what is global. And I think that model has worked for us. And here I am being met by Renuka Bhagat.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Really, it is such an honor to have you. You know what? In Singapore, SP Jain School of Global Management is definitely known as one of the names to reckon with. And definitely the students who are there are high praise about your global values and the way that you have campuses across the region, and definitely kind of extend the opportunity for the students to go around to different campuses to kind of complete their programs. So tell me, if I were a student today looking for the right business school, why would I choose SP Jain School of Global Management? So let's hear the president talk about it in his own ways.
I think it's, our philosophy is really very simple, and it's our razor sharp focus to employment, if I can put it very, very quickly and in a very brief way. So, what does that mean? How do we have this razor sharp focus on employment? And that has to do with relevant education. So, all schools or all universities educate their students, but I think we are a step quicker than most universities in understanding the meaning of relevance. So we constantly meet companies, ask them, what sort of talent do you need? And we just incorporate that in double quick speed. And so, I spoke earlier about the global model. So we actually set up 4 campuses because we said that companies need globally talented students. And so that's the reason why we took this trouble in setting up 4 campuses. And so it's just to demonstrate that we take delivering to companies the right talent very, very seriously. And that has paid us the dividends that we've got.
That's amazing. And that's a very, I would say, a very good answer, because end of the day, the vision that really a business school needs is what you just spoke about, is looking at how the students of tomorrow are going to convert into the professionals of tomorrow. Because the other bit is that if I were to quote the Dell Technologies survey, they sort of say that 85% of the jobs that we are talking about in 2030 for Generation Z or Alpha, they are yet to be invented. So definitely, as an educationist, you have to be ahead of the curve when it comes to, thinking about how to prepare your students for tomorrow. So how do you do that?
So, thanks to the internet, a lot of what we used to go to the schools for, to universities for, which is knowledge, is no longer required, because knowledge and information is available on your smart device.
Totally.
But what you need to go to school, or what you need education to do for you, is to develop your skills.
Yes.
And these skills can include your communication skills. It can improve your analytical skills, your people management skills, and your creativity skills. These are very important. And so the focus at SP Jain is really skill development. This is what we do across all our subjects, across all our courses, whether it's undergraduate, postgraduate, this is what we do. And I think this is why our graduates come out, let's say, with these very special skills coveted by the workplace.
Lovely. But Mr. Jain, you seem to be a very serious person. So I'm going to bring you to a little bit of a casual talk right now. Why it's important is because I know that a person who's so focused all the time can be a great achiever, can be amazing when it comes to taking the organization to the next level. But definitely, he never talks about what else he does in life. So I doubt many people know about that part. So tell me something when you decided to establish SPJN School of Global Management, right? I'm sure, like any other business for that matter, there must have been challenges. There must have been those moments when you stepped back and thought, why did I get into this? It happens to every entrepreneur, as I understand from experience. So can you share some of those moments which were a little disappointing for you, but then you told yourself, of course I can do it?
So let me tell you about our journey to Australia. We are an Australian business school, Renuka.
Yes.
And so when we first went to Australia,
Mhm.
we decided that it's a beautiful country. We would love to set up a campus here. We got a lot of support from the government. And so the government said, fine, you can operate here and go find yourself premises.
Mhm.
And that sounded very easy. In most countries, you go get a real estate broker. He'll
Right.
find you premises, and that's easy.
Yes.
Except in Australia, you require a lot of permissions, and these permissions, hold your breath, take 12 months to clear. And so we were wondering, how can you hold on to a property for 12 months? And so I had personally seen something like 30 or 40 properties. My team had seen twice that. And
Wow.
every time we said, okay, we love this property, they said, but you got to wait 12 months to get the permissions. And we said, something is just not working here. So we had actually taken the decision not to go ahead with it. So
Okay.
it's one of those defining moments. And I went and met the Premier of New South Wales. Premier in some countries means chief minister, so the head
Yeah.
of the state.
Right.
And she told me, okay, wait a minute, we are not letting you go. I will find some government property that you can see, and we will try and make sure that you get the permissions in 3 months instead of 12
Wow.
months.
Oh,
So it was after 2 years of slogging and
yes.
trying to find a place, we found it. So that's good news.
So
We're,
yeah,
we're
that's
in Australia.
overcoming a challenge pretty easily, I would say. Of course, it was
Well,
very tough at that time.
it was not easy, but we managed again. So all's
Yeah,
well that ends well, isn't it, Renuka?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And from there, of course, you got the other campuses. This was your flagship, right? If I'm not mistaken.
This is where we get our degrees from. So we're an Australian business school, but the
Mhm.
campus that we have in the other three cities, which is Mumbai, Dubai, and Singapore, uh, are part of the Australian entity.
Right.
So we have branch campuses in these other places, but the main campus is the Australian one.
Right. And I must congratulate you on a beautiful campus that you have in Singapore. I've always been eyeing it. I don't mind going back to study, to the business school just for that campus.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
just to tell you a quick story about that campus,
Tell me.
we were actually invited by the government of Singapore,
Uh-huh.
and Singapore is in a class by itself, right? So they said, we will invite you and give you the property. So
Wow.
we said, oh, which property is this? And they said, you can choose. So again, we chose 40, we saw 40 different properties. And then we said, okay, this is the one we like. And they said, it's yours. I said, what are
Oh,
you talking about? It's yours. And they say, of course, we don't own it. They just give it to us for a very
right.
small rent.
Right.
And I call that property the Garden of Eden because it has so many trees and it looks just gorgeous.
It is
So it's all thanks to the government,
amazing. It's
the
really
invitation. Yeah. So
yeah.
different countries operate
Yeah,
differently.
next time you're in Singapore, we have to catch up at that property. I've made up my mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Mr. Jain, I'll just take you back to the current unfortunate situation that the world is facing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when we talk about the pandemic, well, definitely on one side we are juggling as an educational institute, and I talk about business schools like yourselves, which are included in that. So we are struggling to make sure that the student schedules do not suffer, uh, and neither does the quality of the education which is sort of imparted. And at the same time, we are also looking at what the future is going to be, because with the current scenario, I would say that the requirements of the employers in the future are also going to be more of creativity, communication, collaboration on a global level using technology, for instance. So how is your school preparing for all of this, while staying definitely not changing and impacting the student schedules?
So first, you know, who does not face adversity?
Sure.
There are so many countries that are war torn. There are companies that are faced with natural disasters,
Yeah.
or we can, at a personal level, have some setback or a business setback. So adversity is everywhere. It's not something that we can hide ourselves away from. The only difference is now that the whole world has got adversity at the very same time. And
True.
hence we read about it in the newspapers, we see it on the television, and we talk about it. And it has definitely impacted our lives without any doubt. But we have to take it in our stride. Okay, it came, it'll go away. And so let's not get so overburdened by this adversity. Coming
Mhm.
to your question on education and how's education coping. So we have actually developed, I think, the finest online technology uh, in the world.
Hmm.
And it is called ELO. For your viewers, you can actually Google SPGen ELO, and you will
Yes.
see an awesome video that describes this technology. It's a classroom in your home. So during the pandemic, you may not want to step outside your home, and
Yes.
so but you still want the same classroom like experience when you study, so you get actually a beautiful classroom like experience in the safety and comfort of your home.
Oh,
the
wow.
second thing the second thing what we've done is we have dealt with the uncertainty of going to a physical campus or travel
Yeah.
with flexibility. So we have now told our students that you can decide which campus you want to study. If you're
Mhm.
from Singapore, you can come to a Singapore campus, no travel. If from your India, you can go to an Indian campus, no travel, or to Dubai campus, no travel, or Sydney. So because we have four campuses, we have
Mhm.
given students a lot of choice and flexibility. So they can now decide where they feel comfortable, and they can go to that campus that's comfortable. And as I said before, if they're not comfortable to go to any one of these campuses, they have
Hmm.
the online option. So they have so many options for them to think about and decide. I'm going to answer another question that you had embedded, which
Sure.
is what's the future looking like? Is this
Yes.
going to change the future of education? And the answer to that is absolutely yes, it is.
Hmm.
Because technology is now enabling students to get a personalized experience.
Yeah, it is.
So we ourselves are investing in a computer or a robot tutor.
Mhm.
You can ask this bot any question, and you'll get a pretty good reply.
Oh, wow.
And this is 24/7, so bots don't have weekends, or they don't have office hours, anytime.
More
So
productive than humans.
yeah. Can you imagine that, you're actually talking to a bot and saying, can you tell me how to solve this math problem? And the
Yeah.
bot is going to actually be able to help you do that.
Wow.
So there's a lot of technology. It's all getting personalized. That
Mhm.
exams are becoming personalized. So let's say 3 to 5 years from today, the education scene would be very different than what you see today. In fact, it might even lead to the collapse of very large universities because you don't need them anymore.
We do see a lot of organizations, not only in the education sector, but also otherwise, evolving and definitely adjusting as they move ahead and re strategize in the new normal, as we would say, right? And that is only going to filter off a lot of those who are probably not geared up to be long term players. Fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, that only time can tell. But definitely, as we see, the results are only going to come out next year, the impact of the current pandemic. But just while we are talking about all the things that are going to change and prove Darwin's theory, I would also like to ask you, do you see any benefit coming out of this new normal? Low costs, for example, in the education sector, do you see that happening?
Absolutely. I think tuition fees may come down by even 50%. I
Mm.
can't predict exactly how much it would be,
Right,
but technology is enabling everything to reduce costs.
it is.
So I think education, the cost of education would definitely come down as
Mm.
we move from human beings to computers. And so a lot of the heavy lifting will shift to computers, which of course would reduce the cost. Today, it's very expensive really to deliver education because it's very people oriented.
Yes,
And if you go to a top university, these people actually are quite expensive
you're right.
because there's a scarcity of talent at the top.
Yep.
And so I think as we can get computers to do much more of the work, and we have people who only supervise the work functioning of these computers or train the computers. I think the cost of education will most certainly come down. You don't
Right.
need these very large universities, which cost a lot of money to maintain.
Right. So maybe I can even ask you this question, which just comes to my mind, since you were one of the handpicked, those in the CEO delegation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi at one point, the top 12 CEOs to Australia post the G20 summit, which is amazing, right? So I just want to understand from your point of view, with such amazing global experience that you have, how do you see the future in terms of all this technology overpowering, if I may use that word, the education sector and also the students' lives? Because it's so important to have a face to face interaction. So, how do we make sure that while technology definitely takes us forward and, sort of make sure that students don't suffer, but in the same time, how do we keep that human touch alive? Because that is also clearly very important.
Yes, so the human touch is certainly going to continue, at least in the foreseeable future. It's
Right.
not that it's going to come to an end anytime soon, but we are all getting used to talking to machines. We are getting used to actually, dealing in a different sort of way. So I think this is something that we have to all be, prepared for, and especially if it comes at a lower price, you
Mm-hmm.
you will be willing to sacrifice some of that human touch uh, for a better experience at a lower cost.
Mhm. And do you see the impact in terms of students going overseas for education, for example? Do you see that reducing since the global boundaries are no longer going to remain the way they are, and you can obviously indulge in educating yourself from the best of best universities while really not moving there?
See,
How do you see that happening?
Renuka, there are many reasons why we
Right,
go overseas for education.
right.
So one is the experience that you get by meeting people of different nationalities, seeing different things, and it's just the whole experience. It's not just exactly what you learn inside the classroom, but
Mm,
it's the full experience of the multicultural, multinational experience you get by going overseas. And
yes.
I can clearly see in our case, the students who come into a class, let's say on the first day, many of them have never traveled abroad.
Oh,
But
wow.
by the time they graduate, they're talking Aussie. They are very, very different when they graduate. I mean, in every way. Their
Right.
hair the dress sense, the way they speak, the choice of words, everything has changed. And
And I,
so, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, please. Sorry about that. Yeah, tell me.
No, so I think, so that's what you get through this international experience. Another good reason for
Mhm.
students to decide to go overseas is employment or migration, because many of them want to work in a different country.
True.
And so, again, our students can work in Australia. So once they graduate, they get a work visa for them to be able to work there. And that's very attractive to many people because it's a great place to build your life, to settle down, to have a family, to raise your kids. It's a great place. So that's another reason. So
Yeah.
there are many, many reasons why people choose to go outside their home country to study. And I think that will continue for some time.
Oh, okay. So you don't see a big change happening in that direction because definitely, apart from just education, there's a lot more that comes along with it. I totally agree with you because I do remember the first time I moved out from India, where I studied, and I joined a management consulting firm in Singapore. It was kind of a whole new world. And definitely interacting with different cultures and learning to there's so much of learning just being there, which definitely I could not get while being just kind of in Delhi or India for that matter. So yeah, I totally agree. We just have one little question here coming up, if you would like to. Is it going to be the same with remote connects as compared to that of classroom education? Do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, so online education was born by being, let's say, very cheap, economical, but also ineffective. So it
Hmm.
has stigma that online education is ineffective.
Right.
But online education can be even more effective. Let me give you an example of what we're doing at SPJ.
Yes.
So we have introduced the concept of a borderless campus. So it started with a concept: why do you need four walls to deliver education? And when you look at it with that sort of construct, we have now in our classes got students from many different countries. They all share the same classroom,
Mhm.
thereby enhancing the experience.
Oh.
Um, so these students are virtual students; they're not physically coming because, of course, we know we're in the middle of a pandemic. But it's actually given students a much broader perspective, and using our online technology, which,
Hmm.
as I said, mimics a classroom right in the comfort of your home. So combine that technology, the ELO technology of SPJN,
Yeah.
with a borderless campus, and you can actually have an experience that's even superior than physically coming to the class.
Oh, wow.
Also, we have developed faculty training so that it's not just what you taught physically is what you teach online. Online education needs a different style of teaching. It needs a
Mm.
more engaging style. And so every single professor of ours who teaches online has undergone
Right.
this training. And so therefore they can actually teach in a very different sort of way, and students actually love it. Let me just say one more thing very quickly.
Yes.
We have an EMBA program, Executive MBA.
Yes.
It's for working professionals. And this year, the number of students that have enrolled online is six times that of last year,
Wow.
6x.
Wow.
So you can
I
just
will
see.
take credit for that, Mr. Jain. I will take some credit for that because we really do promote that in Singapore for you.
Thank you, Renuka. I will surely give you the credit for that. So much appreciated. And so you can just see, because in that online class, again, we have students who are from Singapore, from
Yeah.
Indonesia, Vietnam, Australia, India, USA, Europe, all sitting in the same classroom. It's an
Right.
awesome experience, really.
I've
And it's,
actually had the pleasure of looking at your campus and the technology within your sessions, the classrooms.
oh,
Very,
fantastic.
very impressive. I actually went there. I saw what was there at the desk, the screens, the works. and very impressive indeed. And I can only imagine the kind of fun it can be interacting with people from all across the world while sitting in one location. That's, I think,
Yeah.
extraordinary. Definitely, we didn't have that during our days. I have to complain at this point.
Okay. Your days are still not over, Renuka. You can
You're
still
too kind. You're too kind, and I love you for that. but, but Mr. Jain, are you as tough a taskmaster for your kids as well, or are you a soft father when it comes to your children?
I am a slave to my kids, Renuka. You have no idea.
Oh,
I'm
so
a
your
slave
story is the same as everyone else's, huh?
everyone else. I mean, Dad, what do you know? Let me teach you some stuff. So I am actually their slave. So, but I give them a lot of freedom. Decide what you want. None of
Right.
them want to join me or succeed me in my school. They want to do their own thing. I said, okay, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do that.
It's okay. It's good for them to learn the hard way and then come back all experienced to take it to the
Yeah,
next level, right? Isn't that
sure.
what you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As we
That's
don't have a choice, we might as well accept it, right? And rationalize
that is well put. We need to understand the reality and not
it.
pretend that we control it. It's not by choice, it's just by circumstances that we have to accept the situation.
But at this point, Mr. Jain, did I just lose you? Can you hear me? All right. I see a screen that is frozen here. We seem to have some problem with the connectivity. Mr. Jain, can you hear me? Uh-huh. There is some problem. People who are watching us, do you also face the problem that I am currently? Not sure. So, yeah, we will wait for him to come back. But while he joins us back, that was Mr. Nitish Jain, the president of SP Jain School of Global Management. Definitely a very interesting conversation there about the future direction and the way that the COVID-19 and the pandemic is sort of changing the scenario and the way the education sector is moving. Sometimes things happen, and an unprecedented thing as the current scenario, we definitely do not we're not very sure as to what direction we would go, but that's where our experience, and that's where, welcome back to your own show. We lost you for a bit. We're still having a challenge here. Yes, thanks Shibashish, and thanks Amartya for telling me. Yeah, I see a challenge there. Well, so while he joins us back yet again, I would say that sometimes, as I was saying, we do have some challenges in a certain industry, and this time it's not just one industry; it's kind of impacted everything else. So, how do we move ahead? And especially when you have the generations and their whole life sort of that you are looking at and grooming. Mr. Jain, welcome to your show.
Thank you, Renuka. Let's
Why?
hope I'm lucky. We're hoping the third time is more lucky for us.
I thought your kids did that since we started discussing them. Sabotage.
I'm sure they would have loved to take credit for that.
So at this point, Mr. Jain, while I would say that you are an honor for India, for sure, and an honor for us to have on our show, an achiever of your sorts who has really been there, done that, and there's so much to learn from your experience and the way you have moved ahead. For example, if we look at the way SP Jain School of Management has been named as one of the top 15 by Forbes USA, or if we look at what ranked among the world's top 5 by Times Higher Education, for by no means are these easy to achieve, because there are thousands of business schools we're talking about across the world, and then we look at Asia Pacific, and then we look at a certain area. I mean, it's really not easy, and definitely in an industry which has a lot of competition and a lot of choices for students, to be ranked amongst the top is an amazing achievement. So who would you contribute that achievement to? The lady behind you, like every woman obviously takes the credit, or is there
In this case, in this case, it's my students and my alumni. So we get these top rankings because of their success. So they work hard, they succeed in the workplace. The rankings are based on their success because many of these rankings look at how they performed 5 years,
Right.
uh, how they performed 5 years after they finished their MBA.
Mm.
And so they've worked hard and really done extremely well. And I take all the credit. The school takes all the credit.
You
So
know,
it's
you know,
a fair equation.
sharing that with any woman behind a man. No,
Well, it is my wife, I have to say,
I
publicly.
literally forced you to do that.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah, you did have to force me to do that, but because she says you embarrass me when you give me credit.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's one of the things. But actually, she is a great support. She travels with me, so I travel to all these 4 countries every month. So
Oh,
you
wow.
can imagine that I actually live out of suitcases and live on a airplane, but most of the time she's traveling with me. That's great. And she handles all the heavy stuff, which is accounts and admin and all that stuff, leaving me to do the fun stuff, which is to think of strategy and growth of the school. So,
Fun
so we
stuff.
have a very fair equation here.
Wow.
And
So the last few months must have been very challenging without a suitcase, right? Have you got used to living in a home or
So for the first time in 20 years, I
right?
was in my hometown, Mumbai, for more than 10 days. I've never
Oh,
been in Mumbai for more than 10 days in 20 years. And so I was there for 5 months. I really enjoyed being at home. It's so nice just to get nice home food, no going out, no partying, no social events, just being at home and relaxing and reading and catching up with stuff that you would have never done. So I really enjoyed myself. In fact, I'm just wondering how it would be once life gets back to normal. I'm now used to this sort of life.
right. You remind me of that joke where parents and kids started living together in the beginning of this quarantine times, right? And the children started thinking, "Oh, okay, so these are the guys who we call family. They're not bad people, actually." Beginning to like
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That is so true. That is exactly
there is
right.
silver lining to all this that has happened is the time we've got with each other at as a family, and of course to plan the future.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
thank you so much, Mr. Jain. Is there anything else you'd like to mention about your BBA, the MBA, or the executive MBA programs? Definitely, anything that you would like our viewers to know, because I'm sure there are students out there who are thinking of their future at this point of time.
No, I just like students know our overall philosophy. And our
Right.
overall philosophy is to get the best out of you. So you're not just coming for sitting in a classroom, you're not just coming to get a paper degree at the end, but we actually take very big steps in developing each and every student. So we get the best out of you. And then using our, let's say, corporate connections, we help you to get a job at the end. And so whether you're an undergraduate student or whether you're a postgraduate student, it's the same for all students. And the success of the school and the high rankings and positioning of the school is
Right.
because of the extra mile that we go to make sure that we get the best out of the students. And I just would like all your viewers to know this.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important because at this point of time, while we have some leisure in terms of flexibility of working hours, I think it's not only the students, but also the working professionals who are looking at just moving one level up in terms of their education and their skills. And I think it's the right time to upskill yourself as well, because the future in terms of even jobs is going to be very challenging. Economies are definitely impacted, professions are impacted, organizations are cutting their workforce, and each country is kind of focusing on their own citizens. So
Yeah.
it's changing, it's evolving, and I think it's just the right time for our working professionals tuned in as well to kind of consider the EMBA program, which definitely gives global exposure and, of course, gives the opportunity to meet and discuss issues with the alumni from across the world at SPJ School of Management, as I understand. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain. I will try not to hold you any longer, but with the promise that your next trip to Singapore, we will kind of connect and
Yes.
carry on with the children's challenges topic a little bit further.
Thank you so much, Renuka. It's been a real pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Take good care of yourself. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Mr. Nitish Jain. Amazing, amazing, experienced person, I would say. We've been partners with SPJ School of Management for a while now, for over, I would say, almost a decade now in Singapore. And the way the business school has evolved, and the way the new courses have been introduced, and there's a lot more that comes along, is of course the alumni, as I just mentioned. But apart from that, the technology, definitely. Today's world, in the education sector specifically, is to do a lot with technology. And you just heard Mr. Jain talk about the robots, and we talked about a lot more in that a place which is happening, that is the SPJ School of Global Management. On that note, guys, if you are thinking of elevating yourself from where you are to the next level, or you have children, or you are students who are tuned in right now, do consider the school for your future, because definitely the right selection will help you move in the right direction, and things are changing. It's very important to have a visionary at the top, because only if you have a visionary leader does the organization move in the right direction. On that note, this is Renuka saying bye. I will see you tomorrow, by the way, with my show, Frankly Speaking. Make sure that you look out for what topic is going to play tomorrow. On that note, have a fantastic rest of the evening. Bye from Singapore, and bye from Radio Masti 24.